Hello and welcome to our 47th session, wherein we are now going to explore the user interface in detail. Up to this point, with all our prototype games, when you clicked run, you would just get thrown right into the gameplay. No hello, no how are you, just right into business. Then during runtime, we have never tracked the score, lives or progress. So there was no real way for the player to tell how they were doing. And finally, when the game was over, the only way to restart the game was to stop the project and rerun it. Well, in our previous session, we had added a user interface and we had solved all this issue in the football game. Now again in this session, things are going to be different because we are going to create a prototype that opens with a beautiful title screen where the player can choose the difficulty level. Then during the game, the player's score will be tracked and displayed, and at the end there will be a game over screen where the player will be able to restart without rebooting the entire application. That's right there what we call as a 5-star user experience. All of those elements you just saw, the title screen, the menu button, score display and game over screen, falls into the all important critical category of user interface or UI for short. The UI includes any text, buttons or display that the user can read or interact with during their experience, and that is going to be the focus of this unit. As you saw, having a UI in your project makes it look a lot more professional, but it also allows your project to be a fully playable game, is one that the user can experience seamlessly from end to end without any game-breaking bugs or missing features. Having a UI will finally allow for that. It is one missing piece that we will tie together with everything you have learned to this point. So with no further ado, let's start creating in Unity. As usual, let us start with Unity Hub. In the Hub, come into the project and we are now going to start with a new project. Click on the new project and in the template, select Universal 3D SRP. In the name of the project, I am now going to call this as UI underscore prototype 1, and in eUnity project, I will click on create project. As the game is getting loaded, come into the YouTube channel or your e-learning page, scroll down, and here in the description, if you click on more, you are provided with a Patreon link. Click on this Patreon link to come into the Junior Programmer Series Patreon page. In this page, scroll down fully, and you have a file 47 user interface starter files.unity package. Click on this to download it. Also, if required, download Sartvic underscore layout.wlt file also. Now once Unity is launched, come into the project panel, select the Readme file, and in the inspector click on remove Readme asset, and in the confirmation dialog box click on proceed. We also don't need this input system underscore action. Right click and choose delete, and in the confirmation window click on delete. If your screen layout doesn't match the layout that you are seeing here, then come to the right hand top and in the layout select the Sartvic layout. If Sartvic layout is not present, click on load layout from file, browse to the download folder, select Sartvic underscore layout.wlt file and double click to load it. The layout in the video and on your screen will be the same. Now come into the project panel, select asset, right click, choose import package, custom package, browse to the downloads folder and select the 47 user interface starter files.unity package which you downloaded just now and click on open. Now in the import Unity package dialog box, see that all is selected and click on the import button. Now once it is imported, you can come into the scene and you have prototype file. Press F2 and rename this as UI prototype and press enter. Double click this to open. Select this sample scene, right click and choose delete, and in the confirmation dialog box choose delete. Now here in this UI underscore prototype scene, you have a main camera which is an orthographic camera, then direction light, you have background. Double click on the background, come into the scene view, press Alt left mouse to turn around and see this. Below the background you have border, left border and right border, and then you have another component called sensor. For the background, if you want to customize it, you can come into the asset course library, open it, and in textures select any of the texture here and I can apply it. For example, I can drag polygon proto texture grid 5 and attach it to this. You can come into edit and undo this. You can also drag the texture from here to the right border and apply. Drag prototype texture grid 6 and apply it to the left border. You can customize it. Since the game that we are building is a 2D game, we can come into the panel here and click on enable 2D. So if I take the move tool and select any object here, you will have only the x axis and the y axis, and the z axis will be missing. We have to add game object, and the game object that we add here are of two types. One are the good object and clicking on it adds point, and some are bad object and clicking on it harm and destroy the player. To add this, come into the project panel, asset, and in course library you have props. You have ball, food, other. I click on other and I can preview this one by one. So if I select barrel 1, I will come into the inspector bottom, drag it up so I can see its preview here. This is barrel 2, crate 1, crate question 1, Cinti-cube 1. I select this crate 1 and I will just drag it into my hierarchy. I will come into the transform and reset its position to 0, 0, 0. I will just drag it along the y axis. I will move it by 7 units. Along x axis, I will move it to the left by around -4 units. I will select this crate underscore 1, press F2. And I am going to call this as good 1. Come back to my project window, select this crate question 1, drag it from here into my hierarchy. This appears to be slightly small, so I will come into the inspector and in scale enable constraint proportion and I will increase its scale to around 1.5. Transform along the x axis I will set it to 0, along the y axis I will set it to 7. I may have to move it by 7.5. See, I have to move it slightly above, may have to move it to around 7.73. I will select this crate question 1, press F2 and I will call this as good 2. Now similarly, I select the Cinti-cube 1, drag it from here into the hierarchy, come into transform and reset it to 0, 0, 0 and then I will drag it up and I will place it at the same height like this and I will move it to the right. Along the x I will move it by 4 units. I will slightly scale it, enable constraint proportion and scale it by around 1.2. I will select this Cinti underscore cube 1 in hierarchy, press F2 and I will call this as good 3. Now I need bad characters. So if I come into the props here, you have a folder called bad and if I open it, you have one skull image and skull prop bomb 1. You have two objects here. So I will select skull 1 and I will drag it into the scene. Press F2 and I am now going to call this as bad 1. I will come into transform and I will first reset it to 0, 0, 0. I will drag it up. When I reset it along the y, I will rotate it by 180 degree. So I will enable scale and I will scale it by 2 units. And I will also add another bad object. So I will select this SMP prompt bomb 1 and I will drag it into the scene. Also I will press F2 and I will call this as bad 2 and I will come into transform and reset it to 0, 0, 0, enable scale constraint proportion and I will enable it by around 2 units. Along the y axis I will move it up to around a height of around 4. Also along x I will slightly move it to the side. I will move it by around -2. I have these 5 objects here. I am going to make it move using physics. I will select good 1 with shift pressed. I select till bad 1, bad 2. I will come into add component. I am going to type collider and I am going to add a box collider to all these objects. So if I select good 1, good 2 individually, for all the 5 box collider is added. Then again I select good 1 with shift pressed, I select till bad 2. I will click add component and I will add a rigid body component. To make this instantiate and to make it pan, I have to now create a script. I will come into the assets window. I will close this props, textures, come into asset, right click, and I am going to create a new folder, and I am going to call this as scripts folder, and I am going to right click, create a new mono behavior script, and I am going to call this as targets. Now allow the script to compile. See that the name here in the public class and the file name is the same. Then I will come into the hierarchy, select good one with shift select till bad 2, and scroll down here and come into add component and type target, and you have the target script here. And select it, the target script is attached to good 1, good 2, good 3, bad 1 and bad 2. I have to convert all these 5 with box collider, rigid body and target script applied into a prefab. So I will come into the asset, right click, and I am going to create a new folder. I will call this as my prefabs. I will come into the hierarchy, select good one with shift press select till bad 2. Select all the 5, drag it from the hierarchy into the project my prefabs folder. And when it asks about create prefabs or variants, choose original prefab. And now you have all these 5 converted into prefab. I will come to file and I am going to save it. Our next move is coming into the hierarchy. I have already added these 3 good and 2 bad game objects, and I does not want this game object to be standing still like this. As the game starts, they should bounce from the bottom up and fall down. And when they are bouncing up and going down, I want them also to rotate as they bounce and go down. So to achieve this, we are going to make use of our target script. So I will come into the hierarchy first, and with good one selected with shift pressed, I select till bad to all the 5 and press delete. We are not going to add it manually, but it will be instantiated through the script. Now coming into the project panel, select the target script and double click to open this in Visual Studio Code. If it asks to trust the author, click on yes, I trust the author. In the code, first we are going to declare a rigid body because we are using force and torque to make it jump and rotate. So after the open flower bracket, I will press enter and I am going to declare a private. The type of variable is a rigid body and I am going to call this as target RB and end it with semicolon. As soon as the game starts, I am going to first assign this target RB equal to, I am going to get the component and in lesser than greater than sign. Inside this, I am going to get the rigid body component, come out of this greater than sign, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. For this target, I want this to jump from the ground to the top. I will press enter and in the next line, I am going to call this target RB component and I will press period and I am going to add force to it. Add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. The direction the force I am going to apply is upwards. I will call vector 3 period up and I am going to multiply it by a standard value into, I want this value to be different at different times. I doesn't want it every time to jump from the same amount of value. So we are going to call our random.range function, add open close bracket and inside this, I want this range to start from 12 period and up to 16. Come out of this bracket, add comma, call force mode. Force mode I am going to use will be impulse. I have added accidentally one extra star here. I will remove it. The force will move our object from the ground to the top. While at the same time, I want my object to rotate. We are again going to use physics. Press enter. I will call target RB and this time I am going to add torque. Torque will make it rotate. I will add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. And for torque, I have to set 3 values. First is the x value and I will set the x value random.range open close bracket. I want it to vary from minus 10 to 10. I will add comma, and this random range, I will just copy it and paste it for y, comma, then also z, comma. So for all the three, I have added this value, and finally the force mode will be again impulse. Finally, the position from where this spanning should happen, that we are going to determine by transform.position, and this position will be equal to a new vector 3, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. Along the x-axis, I want it to span from different points from the bottom. If you come into Unity, I want ones to span from here, one from here, one from here, and this is the x-axis. This distance is around 4 units. So I will come back to the script, and in this range for x, I will set it to random.range, and I will add open close bracket, and this range will be from -4 to 4. And for y, if I come into Unity, I will just drag some object to see its location. I will come into the move tool, and if I move it, I want it to span somewhere from this point, from around -2. So I will delete this. Now come back to my script, and along the y axis, I will set its value to -. Z, I doesn't enter anything at all for z. If I go to file, save it, I will come back to Unity now, allow the script to compile, and once it is compiled, if I play the game and check it, now as the game is going on, if I drag this good one, you can see panning and coming down. If I drag good 2, see it spans up and comes down. I will span good 3. See, it is spanning from different location. Bad 1, so it is spanning like this, and bad 2, I will add it. So now I will stop the playback. Coming back into our target.cs file, this is a very messy code. Our logic is working fine, but the structure of our code is not good. Let us refactor this code. Whenever it is jumping, the minimum force and maximum force, instead of declaring it directly, I am going to declare it through a variable. So I will come after this private rigid body target RB line, press enter, and I am going to set a public variable, and the type of this variable is float, and I will set its value to minimum speed, and I will set its value to 12. I will declare another public float, and I will call this as maximum speed, and I will set its value to 60. Now coming into the random range, the minimum speed will be set to 12 and the maximum speed will be set to 60. I will press enter. I am going to declare the torque value. So for this, I will come into public float, and I am going to call this as max torque, and I will set its value to 10, and I will end it with semicolon. Coming into the start range here, instead of -10 and 10, I will replace this -10 with max torque, and I will add a minus sign here. I will add max torque. I will copy this entire thing inside this random range and paste it for the y, and also I will paste it for the z. When it comes to the range, declare another public float, and I am going to call this as xRange, and I will set its value to 4 and end it with semicolon. And here in the transform position, I will set this value to -xRange to xRange. For the y span position, I will set public float another variable y span position, and I will set it equal to -2, end it with semicolon, and here I am going to replace it with -y span position. The code is repeating. Actually, it is always best to convert these values into methods. After void update close bracket, I will press enter, and I am going to declare a vector 3 returning RandomForce function. And I will add open close bracket, press enter, and in open close flower bracket now, I am now going to return. I am going to copy this vector 3 up, minimum speed, maximum speed. This entire thing, I will cut it from here and put it inside this RandomForce function and end it with semicolon. Coming into AddForce here, I am just going to call this function RandomForce with open close bracket. Similar to RandomForce, I will press enter twice. I am going to return RandomTorque, and RandomTorque is a float number. I will declare a float returning method and I will call this as RandomTorque open close bracket, and in open close flower bracket, inside this flower bracket, call this random.range minimum torque maximum torque. This entire line I will cut it and put it inside my RandomTorque. First I have to add a return keyword and press Ctrl V and end it with semicolon. So this is going to return a RandomTorque, and in AddTorque I will just call this function RandomTorque open close bracket. Call this function once for x value. I will call it for y value, and similarly here I will call it for the z value. Even for this position here, I want to declare another method which is going to return a vector 3 value. And one mistake I did here is all methods should start with capital letter. So this random, I will make it capital here, and also here wherever I have called it, I have to replace it with capital letter. This doesn't give any script error, but it is always a programmer's convention to keep always methods name. It should always start with capital. Then I will call RandomSpawnPosition. I will declare another method, add open close bracket, and in open close flower bracket, inside this I am going to return this entire line here. Cut it and put it after return, and then come here for transform position, and I am going to replace it with RandomSpawnPosition open close bracket and end it with semicolon. So this is what we call as refactoring of code. So now our code appears more readable. Finally now I will come to file and I am going to save this. If you come back to Unity, and now once the script is compiled, if you just play it, now again there is no difference in the logic. So if I drag and put it, see the same effects you can see, you are seeing it here. Now I will stop the playback. The next mission is we want this span to happen automatically using the instantiate method, and also this time we are going to explore this using list and coroutine. We are going to do this spanning in our next session.